honest, how does Nintendo follow up their second best-selling system of all time just behind the DS back in 2004? There's two ways to do this. Path 1 isn't gonna do well, and I'll explain that. And path number 2 is gonna be the big money maker. I don't like switching anymore, let's discuss. Now, to begin, we have to begin where it all begins. Let's discuss path number 1, the direction that I think will do Nintendo terribly in terms of sales. The highly speculated, the highly discussed, the highly searched Nintendo Switch 2. Or the Switch U, or the Switch Neo. If it has Switch in the name, it's done for. As I said, it begins where it begins. NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo's first real way into the console space. After a success like that, you want to make, a Switch 2, or in that case, an NES 2. Because they didn't know any better, what do they make? An NES 2, called the SNES. If you're not a super hardcore gaming fan back then, you might just look at it and be like, I don't need to spend more money, I'm not buying it. And because not everyone thinks like that, but a lot of people do, the SNES sold just over 10 million units less than the NES. The original sold better, the sequel to the console did not. Next example, Nintendo's best-selling system, the DS, 154.02 million units sold. Well, let's add a new function to it. 3DS, sold less than half the amount of the DS's sold. And it's like that for everything. Game Boy to Game Boy Advance, Wii to Wii U, it's not gonna do any better. So after doing that 4 times, you would think on the 5th time they've looked at their data and they know not to make a Switch 2. Because unless they add like unbelievable specs that even PlayStation or Xbox can't do, it's not gonna do any better than the original Switch. Despite that, everyone is calling the next system the Switch 2, I am as well. I think that's just the code name for whatever it's gonna be. But realistically, no matter what advertising you do in stores, at E3, is that even still a thing? Whatever presentation, whatever convention, it's not gonna do any better than Switch. It's not only turning off the people who do not know the difference, it turns off people like you and me who are gonna actually know it's a brand new system, but don't really want another Switch. And me and you will probably buy it too, but it's gonna suck for the next 7 years having the almost exact same thing, just new games and a few new features. So I believe if Nintendo goes down this one path, I don't really care what you do unless you have better graphics than your competitors, it's not gonna do any better than your Switch. So back to the question and the title of the video, realistically, how does Nintendo follow up the Switch? Well, this will bring us to path number 2. Look at systems like the Switch, like the Wii, like the DS, like the GameCube. Not the GameCube. I mean, when you introduce a brand new something, people are amazed, people are shocked. You want to get your hands on it as soon as possible. From a system like the Wii U over to the Switch, you didn't know how a Switch worked. You wanted to get it. If we get a Switch 2, you know how a Switch works, it's just new, so you're gonna buy it. But it's like a mundane thing, like, yeah, let's get the Switch 2, play whatever new games are out, it's still a Switch. And the common argument is, well, the Switch is a hybrid system. It can go to the TV, to handheld, to the left Joy-Con being sent to Nintendo repair because it has drift. You can't ditch hybrid. And if it is a hybrid, it's gonna feel like a Switch. What the heck do you do? See, this is where I wouldn't be a good fit for Nintendo. I seriously believe you have one portable handheld system and one TV-only console in the same era or generation. Here's why. Well, I'll tell you why. They've already figured this out. Look at the Wii and DS era. DS, 2004. Wii, 2006. The Wii and DS combined to sell 255.65 million units. Wii U and 3DS, it's not nearly the same thing, but hear me out. If the Wii U had better marketing and wasn't a Wii with a tablet, essentially if it wasn't a Wii U, I think it does near what the Wii did. If the 3DS wasn't a DS with 3D, I think it does near what the DS did. They were sequels to consoles. As we've established, those don't do better. The first brand new thing after those two systems was the Switch, and that did 125.62 million units at the time of recording. What's also good is with a handheld system and a console system, you can make dedicated games. You can make handheld touch games with the whole stylus situation and everything, and for the console, it'll have some power to run all the cool games. Not to mention, some games will be exclusive to the handheld, some exclusive to the console, and so you'll want both. Sounds a little stupid, because once you have the hybrid, you have all that in one. But once again, it was working before. Me personally, I would kill for a handheld and a console system. I just like the separation between the two. You know, one's for taking with you, one's for coming home, sitting on the couch, grabbing your popcorn, grabbing your controller of choice, and playing the great console games that don't look terrible and have frame rate issues, and enjoy them. The Switch is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I would like separation between the two like I'm used to. Now we get to what is Nintendo most likely gonna do. Well, Nintendo knows the monster they're facing. They've come out and said, we're in uncharted territory. They don't know what to do. Therefore, I think they're aware if they make a Switch 2, it's not gonna do incredible. They're in unknown territory. They need something new and have to use their brains. You've used them before, just do it again. Now, if they do go with just one system, that can for sure work. I just don't like how some games are limited in power. Like, I'm not kidding, performance-wise, I find more joy in playing the Wii games than Switch games. Okay, that's not totally true, I just like 60 frames per second. Now, how much is the next system going to cost? You know, gotta get that dough out, gotta get the money. That's why I'm making this video. I'm kidding. But if there's a Switch 2, I don't see a world where Nintendo can charge more than $400 for it. I don't think it's a Nintendo thing at all to charge like $500 for your new system like the PS5 and the Xbox. They can do that because it's actually powerful, but also Nintendo fans don't want to pay that. We never had to before. We don't want to do it now. Considering the Switch OLED is $350, I'm gonna say the Switch 2, I would honestly put it at $400. Because the original Switch is $300, you would think with any kind of new feature, with any kind of new power, it's gonna be more than that. Now, it would for sure be better than the Switch OLED, which is $350, so I'd say $400 is your next bump up. So $400 doesn't look too bad when you compare it to the newer systems like even the Steam Deck or the PS5 or the Xbox Series. It's certainly doable. But then more factors come into play, like would there be a digital-only Switch like a Xbox Series S or a PS5 digital? I'm not touching that, that's way too complex. But if there were to be a handheld and a console, what do we price these to? The handheld, I think you price at $200. If you're making a handheld-only device that plays Nintendo games and isn't like a whole Steam Deck situation, you don't want to pay more than $200. For example, the new 3DS XL was sold for $200 at launch. So if the first edition model of this handheld system is $200, you can make a revised version for like $250 or so and sell it like that. So $200 and $250, $250 being the upgraded version of whatever they put out for a handheld system. Now the console itself, if they're making a console, you know, it has power, plays the newest games, it's an enjoyable home experience, $300. That is what the Wii U launched at, and while it's looked at as a steep price tag, you paid it for the Switch. Therefore, if there was a new gimmick and features and reasons to buy this brand new home console, $300 seems pretty doable. $350 is also possible, but it gets kind of out of hand when you go any higher. You honestly might think that the prices should be higher, however, Nintendo has never been one to compete with PlayStation and Xbox prices. They're in their own lane, doing their own thing. After price, you get to release date. At the time of recording, in 2023, the Switch is almost 6.5 years old. For comparisons, the Wii to the Wii U wait was 6 years, the DS to 3DS wait was 7 years, and I'll say, I don't see this Switch wait being longer than 8. So I think part of the reason for the kind of lengthy wait is because they've learned to let it breathe and let it soak up all the sales before you take all the attention away and put it on your next system. Switch sales are already slowing down. We've seen signs of this in shareholders meetings and things like that. And that's obviously to be expected. But as Nintendo, you have to put your thinking cap on. That's what they used to say in elementary school, and it really never worked. So maybe don't put your thinking cap on. Put your Nintendo engineer brain on and craft something up. There are many rumors that suggest 2024 is the year, like there was one today. What did it say? Chinese manufacturer says it's preparing for a new Japanese games console launching early 2024. For a timeline like this and a Japanese company making a game console in 2024, you would think it's Nintendo. There's no confirmation, but I think that they also know people are getting ready for the next system. You'd probably reveal it in 2024. I think that you release it in 2025, but I would not complain with a 2024 release date. Because if that releases in 2024, think about it. If you're watching this when this video releases, it's July, almost August, late 2023. That's 1 year from now. I think that the Switch still has a little bit over 1 year left in sales. I mean, how can you do 2024? You have Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon coming to the Switch. You have the untitled, unseen Peach game coming to the Switch. How are you gonna do this? Not to mention all their other 2024 plans. I don't think that the timeline is lining up right here. Then one thing that we touched on a little bit. Name. As we said a bit earlier, Unless it looks exactly like a Switch, you don't put Switch in the name. It's so simple for someone to be like, well, I have a Switch, I don't need that one. Especially when you have things like a Switch OLED. Imagine if that was a new console and no one knew. Do you know what I would name it? I would name it the Switch Neo. That's what it says on all the expensive TVs nowadays. You can add any big bang word. Neo, Ultra, Pro would be big, but none of those sound like new systems, so you can't do that. If there's a handheld and a console, what do? This is why they didn't hire me. This is not me naming the system, but giving pointers on how to name it. I think that in the name, you let people know that it is a handheld system. The Switch, you switch from TV to handheld. You switch. It kind of registers and it's a lot cooler. That's not to say name the system the Nintendo Hand Console, but if you can find something like the Nintendo Compact, it's in your hands, it's small, it's a handheld, that'd be perfect. The console, that I feel like there's more freedom. Most systems nowadays are plug into the wall and show up on the TV. You don't need that one to have as much description in the name. So go bananas there. You can even call it the Nintendo Banana. I'm sure it would do great. Whatever the heck happens, I'm ready for it, and I'm really hoping for a console and a handheld to be in one same generation and separate the games like I mentioned. With that said, I do want your thoughts on this. What do you want? A Switch 2? A brand new hybrid system? 2 different systems? Let me know. I'll try to heart and respond to every single comment. Unless there's too many, I can't do that. But yes, if you want to support me and help me make these awesome videos, there's a link down below to become a channel member where you support the channel monetarily, and in exchange, you get some awesome perks for the channel. With that said, I'll see you all in the next video. Subscribe on your way out, and adios.